Now, kind of want to just touch on the recent leaks, rumors, news. And this is crazy, man. This came out of nowhere, and every gaming news outlet was covering it, and I was like, shit, I gotta check this out, And I don't know the person that potentially leaked this. I've never really heard of them before, other than news outlets refer to him as an insider and a leaker, but they say the same thing about Dusk. Dusk had a lot of stuff right too. But yeah, so basically this guy, Richard, I think was his name. Sorry I'm not sure. I don't remember. I can't remember. But he's like an insider, a leaker, and he said in his post to his Patreon during a podcast that Resident Evil 1 is getting a remake in the same style as 2 and 3 and 4. And there was another Resident Evil fan page that also said that I've heard that Resident Evil 1 is getting a remake for the 30th anniversary, which takes place in 2026, so 1996 to 2026. And Capcom has said that they have a special announcement for the 30th anniversary. So we all know something big is coming for the 30th anniversary. How do you have a 30th anniversary? I mean, the fact that Resident Evil has been around for 30 years is honestly it's incredible. There's very rare that a company can make the same series for 30 years. And right. I mean, we see that now with this channel and how large it's grown, and this community is massive. There's a ton of Resident Evil fans. And the thing is, over the years, they've reinvented themselves so many times. So not only do you have a ton of fans, but you have all these groups of fans, and they just keep coming now with 7 and 8, right? So this community is massive. And so with this potential leak or rumor about a Resident Evil 1 remake coming for the 30th anniversary, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I'll get into if it deserves it, if I think it's necessary, I'll get into all that, but I'm just talking about right now what we got. And if you guys didn't catch this, I just did a video yesterday. I released it actually on this news, so if you want, go check that out. But I don't know how reliable this source is. I don't know how credible this source is. I just know that when it came out, it took off.
Everybody picked it up.
It's being echoed by a few leakers, so there's got to be some weight to it. Right?
There's got to be.
But it's not necessarily the weight to it. It's just that it makes sense. And now when we look at the Resident Evil 1 remake, which to this day is the best made Resident Evil game in my opinion. Do I think that it's the best made Resident Evil game to everybody? No. I know there's a lot of fans that like the new over-the-shoulder modern controls, and I know it's kind of jarring going from the new remakes back to that one. Now, in a perfect world, in my opinion, I would love to see Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes on the GameCube shortly after the release of Resident Evil 1. That's never going to happen. That game didn't sell as well on the GameCube. It was the GameCube, right? And that's why Resident Evil 4, it did well on the GameCube, but they eventually ported it over to the PS2, and it just took off, and right? Because the GameCube, and it's the same with the Dreamcast. Resident Evil Code Veronica probably would have done better if it wasn't on a console, and I love the Dreamcast, but it probably would have done better if it was on like a PlayStation 2. That was a more popular console.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Resident Evil 1 Remake didn't do as well at that time. When they remastered it and released the remaster, it did much better years later, and I think it was 2015 or 2016. But anyways, so I could see why now, with the popularity of the series and these recent remakes, 2 and 4 in particular, that, for the sake of consistency and writing their new lore, Capcom's got like a new lore to this new series, that they would go back to where it all began for the 30th anniversary and redo 1. And when you put it in that perspective, it makes sense, right? It's, again, I've spoken on, my ideal scenario with the GameCube, and we know that's not going to happen. We missed our window. So for the sake of consistency, for the sake of writing their new lore and tying the games in together better, I'm not completely against it. Now, will it be as good as the Resident Evil 1 remake? I mean, it's going to be subject to opinion. That's hard to do. It's like capturing lightning in a bottle twice.
Right.
How do you do that?
You probably don't.
You probably don't. But Capcom has learned a lot since they came back with the RE engine Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 7. Look at 2. Great. Yeah. 3, very mixed. 4 came right back. And Village was
good too, yeah.
I feel like they learned enough and they understand enough, and they're more in touch with the community than they were with like 6, right? They seemed
definitely.
I get what they were doing with 6, but they seemed kind of very out of touch, right? With what is Resident Evil? It's a survival horror game, and this was just something completely different. I know people like Resident Evil 6, and that's fine, but what I'm saying is they seem way more in tune with what the community wants in a Resident Evil game, and they've learned a lot of what works, what doesn't work. So Dev 1 is the ones responsible for 7, 2, Village, and 4. M2 did 3, so let's take that out of the equation. And I think Dev 1 has established a good enough track record where I would trust them with a remake of Resident Evil
100%.
And I can confidently say that if they were to do it, while it would hurt a little to see the Resident Evil 1 remake now be replaced with it. It's never replaced. You can always go back. But what I'm saying is to see them do it again, it's like it was so perfect. I understand, and I'm not going to lie, I would be very excited. And I think, I want
to see it selfishly.
I was going to come to you on this because I know you were all for it when we first started talking about it. I was very conflicted.
I'll let you finish, but...
Yeah, but, I've come around to the thought that, yeah, I mean, if I like the original, I have the original. If I want the remake, I have the remake.
Yeah, you still got them.
And it's not, if there was a chance I would get 2 and 3 in the same style as 1 on the GameCube, then I would say, no, it doesn't need it. Let's get that. But it's not going to happen.
No.
So why not? You know what I mean? So, and
the only reason why not for me, is that if it's taken away from something else that needs to be done. Or,
I see. Like they're using their resources on this,
which they are.
Yeah,
they're using a lot of resources. I'm sure if they're doing it.
According to other rumors and leaks, there potentially is 5 games in development, which is kind of
a lot of games.
I know it's a lot. It's a lot. It's
but normally like 3. I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Well, if you're counting other IPs too.
Yeah, true. If you're counting other IPs, it's probably like 5. But I would say more in line with you, like 3. Makes more sense, but it's just, they say 5, so maybe we'll get the other ones too. But with all of that said, I would be excited for it, and I do think that now it is kind of necessary. I wouldn't have said that, a few months ago if you would have asked me, but I thought about this a lot ever since people started talking about it, and I do think now that we've moved past, the GameCube Resident Evil style, the fixed camera angles, the tank control. It's the way it's going, right? That it would kind of be a shame not to. You got 2, 3, 4.
You kind of have to.
You kind of have to. But by doing so, if handled properly, there's a lot that could be improved upon. We could improve on the A and B scenarios.
It's going to be good.
We could get a canonical ending with Barry and Rebecca, which we never, they're still alive, but it depends on what story you play, and you get one or you get the other. And we could also get a tie-in with Resident Evil 0, and maybe even a hint at a Resident Evil 0 remake, which I would like to see.
I would love that.
I would love to see that. But that could be them.
I like
that could be them tying it in with 0, but then hinting at a 0's next if this does well. You know what I mean?
It could be.
So that is a very long explanation on the latest leaks, rumors, and my thoughts. But now, Corey, I'm going to throw it over to you. What are your thoughts on a potential Resident Evil 1 remake?
I basically just said, but I mean, I want to see it selfishly. Yeah. I do like the RE engine, and I like 2 and 4.
And you like Dev 1?
I like Dev 1.
Yeah,
and I liked Village. 2 Village is good, except for it was a little too mythical for me. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if they're going to do it, I'm okay with it.
What is one thing about it, if they did do it, that you would like to see?
No. I don't know.
I
was trying to think of that. I can't think really about it.
I mean, just seeing the Spencer Mansion.
I see it in the third. Yeah, the Spencer Mansion in the RE engine.
Well, and what also gets me excited about the Spencer Mansion and the RE engine is they've kind of been doing, like, Resident Evil 4 is over the shoulder, but it's also VR, and the VR is awesome.
The VR is pretty good.
Like, if they were to not continue that going forward, I'd be shocked. So, if we got Resident Evil 1, we could get Resident Evil 1 over the shoulder, but we potentially could also get it in VR. And that's what I think makes me the most excited.
I think we would.
Yeah, exploring the Spencer Mansion.
There's no reason why they wouldn't.
In VR would just be a dream.
Like,
a dream.
Done, like, what's that mod you did? Stuff? That was pretty cool back in the day.
I've done
Crying Horn, I think.
Crying Horn did the Resident Evil 2.
That was the RPD.
Yeah, that was the RPD, which was at that time amazing and still like really well done. But like I've done first person Unreal Engine builds of Resident Evil 1 and just exploring it and like a new perspective. It's just so cool. I just love the Spencer Mansion.
I think I downloaded like the model of that or something.
Yeah.
Like I have like a really good Spencer Mansion. I just go through it.
So iconic, I mean, well, look at our channel, The Residents of Evil. Yeah. Look at our logo. It's all about the survival horror of the original game as the mansion as our theme, right? Like, because it's so iconic. And
right.
No, I think that would, honestly, the more I think about it, the more excited I get for it. And the more I understand that, my window for what I would have wanted has passed. And at this point, I'm okay with it because there's no going back, almost over 20 years.
We still have them, like you said, too.
Yeah, we still have
the original, and we have the original remake.
Exactly.
So why not throw a third one on there to make everyone like it?
You know what I mean? Yeah. Would you say remake Resident Evil 3 again?
No. Oh, that too. Yeah. I would say that.
Yeah. But now I want to talk about, like, if they did remake it, do you think they would do more of the style of 1 with a re-envisioning, more of the style of remake with a re-envisioning, or its own completely new, like, thing?
No, they would do like a 2 or a 3 or a 4.
Yeah, but I mean, like, because 1 is very similar to the remake. The remake, like, captured the essence of 1, but in a much more gritty, realistic way by adding a lot more to the story, characters, and lore.
Yeah.
Do you think that they would kind of base it more with, like, lighter colors, maybe, like the original? Do you think that they would have some of the campiness of the original, or do you think they'd go more gritty and dark?
Probably grittier and dark.
So it would be more in line with, like, the remake.
RE4, right.
Yeah. Now, do you think they would re-envision the Spencer Mansion or the layout of it, or do you think they would?
Probably a little bit. I don't know what they would do, but I'm sure it's not going to be 1-to-1. Maybe they would.
I mean, the areas in Resident Evil 1 remake that were from the original game were like 1-to-1.
Almost. They added
but
more.
All the areas they added were completely re-envisioned. So it's almost like, okay, keep the layout of the Spencer Mansion. Don't change it too much, but add on to it maybe.
Whatever.
Until it's just a city of a building.
No, I just want them to keep it probably the way it was.
Yeah, kind of, hey?
Yeah.
But they, you know, like with Resident Evil 2
darker
remake,
and grittier.
they kind of changed that up by not, like, you started in the streets, but then, like, a lot of that was later with Kendo, you know, so, like, I don't know. I feel like they would probably, like, move stuff around.
Maybe. I don't think they would, though. I think they're going to try to keep it.
I mean, that might not be terrible if it really, everything I say is if done properly.
I want them to keep it the
same.
same.
I would like them to keep it the same, too.
To be honest.
Because that's what's so iconic about it. But no, what do you guys? I mean, let us know what you guys are thinking in the chat. You guys can chat about it now, or if you're rewatching this, you can comment down below. I'm not going to be able to read everything right now, but I do like to go through this and just kind of get a consensus.
Cool. Lisa as a stalker.
What?
In the remake, if they put Lisa as a stalker.
Lisa as a stalker would be fantastic. That's a really good idea.
Suspect 13.
Suspect 13, I like that idea a lot. And I kind of wish they would have done that with the chainsaw guy in the Resident Evil 4 remake. And now he's fine in it. He's good. But we all kind of expected, or him or Mendez would be like that one that's stalking you. And Resident Evil 4 didn't really have like that Lady D or that Mr. X.
They didn't have a stalker.
They didn't have,
which
like,
is okay.
They had a few like in areas, but not like on that level.
That's okay.
Now, if we were to do Resident Evil 1, with Lisa Trevor breaking through a wall or something.
Dude, I'd love that.
Or like swinging down from a chandelier.
That's actually what I pictured.
That would be sick, you know?
Busting through walls.
Like,
clobbering people.
It's clobbering time. Not that silly. But yeah, you get it. You know, like that's a really good idea. And not, like I said, the more I think about it, the more I think about things like that. And that's another one I didn't think about. That's a really good idea.
Ooh.
So, you know, you could see the potential in it. And for the 30th anniversary, shit. Perfect time.
I like Tony's idea too. Add a hedge maze. I
love that idea. That's a really good idea, Tony.
Add a new area for you to play as Barry, more Rebecca, and Lisa is more of a threat.
More Rebecca, more Barry. I like that. A canonical ending, more cohesive A and B scenario, a more of a tie-in to Resident Evil 0. Maybe allude to a Resident Evil 0 remake. Lisa Trevor is a stalker character.
I'd probably want 2 stories too.
Yeah, like
to where I could play as Barry and Rebecca or something.
Oh, like
additional, as like a Jill and a Chris or whatever.
Oh, hear me out. So we have the A and B scenarios, like the original game and the remake.
Exactly.
But we also have a separate ways style, like the Resident Evil 4 remake, with Barry or Rebecca.
With both.
Ooh, yeah.
Or either or, whatever. Yeah.
Come on, man. That sounds amazing.
That sounds good.
That sounds really good. But yeah, it sounds exciting, but I don't want to get my hopes up too high. Like I've already talked myself into being excited. Okay, I've come to terms. If it happens, but I don't want to be like, all right, it's coming, and then it never happens, and then I let myself down. So again, leaks, rumors, keep it all in a grain of salt, like a huge grain of salt.
I like salt.
Yeah, because you know this. Who knows? You know, there's a new leak every day. It seems like I just did 2 leak videos. What the hell? It used to take like a few months before I would get anything, and now it's like every day there's something. So I have no idea.
That means something's coming.
It means something. It does mean something's coming. And I mean, if we take all the leaks and rumors away, I mean, obviously something would be shown soon. This is kind of like the time where we've had enough time since Resident Evil 4. It's getting into the summer. Like, obviously something is going to be shown, and it's most likely going to be Resident Evil 9, right? And we could save I think we talked about Resident Evil 9 in our last stream for Crow Country. Yeah, we talked about the Resident Evil 9 leaks. But with all that being said, I still really do hope that if they are going to remake Game 2, they're also doing Code Veronica before 5.
I hope so.
Before 5, because I mean it's pretty critical to the story.
Even if they even do 5.
Even if they do 5, which I mean at the end of 4 remake, kind of.
I don't know.
It'd be crazy if they did it. I
don't know.
They're just remaking everything at this point. Honestly.
Well, yeah, it's like a perfect timeline.
They've done 2, 3, 4.
Everything's like 15 years old, like perfectly.
Why not just finish it? You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
We're already here. I mean, and it doesn't.
I want them to do 5 and then 6 and then be done with the remake.
6 I would like because I feel like that game could get some help. Yeah,
I need it.
Help that game. Some people like it, but
I understand. But
you know, at this point, and people will say, I don't want to see another remake. I just want the story to progress. If the next remake is bad, then I agree with you. But if it's really good, we're still getting a new game, and then a new game that progresses the series, and then we're getting a remake. So it's off and on. So you know they have multiple divisions within Dev 1 working on these. So it's not like they're not going to release Resident Evil 9 because they're working on a remake. Like they're going to do both, and they don't have to outsource it to do it. They can still handle it within house. So like as long as it's not hindering the progression of the series, and they're good, I'm all for it. Just at this point, you know, do it if it's good.
If you want.
If they want money, yes, they will.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you guys think? I don't know.
I want a Resident Evil pachinko machine. Come on.
Holy shit.
Get out of here.
Get the hell out. I bought Resident Evil 1 Remake the day it came out along with the GameCube. I bought my GameCube because of Resident Evil 1 Remake.
Yeah.
I knew 4 was coming, and I was excited for that, but I got it for Resident Evil 1.
Hell yeah. I'm glad you had a GameCube. That thing was dope. I never had one.
That was such a cool console. They had so many good games on it too, and the graphics were awesome. And this the console itself, that little compact cube,
the handle,
and the
game
little
disc?
tiny little cute disc, and then their Game Boy Advance adapter. I love my GameCube, dude.
Sims busted out.
Oh yes, that was great. That. Yeah, and I wouldn't have got it if it wasn't for Resident Evil.
Director's Cut. I had that. No, I had that on DS. Never mind.
Director. Deadly Silence.
Whatever. Yeah.
One of the best versions of Resident Evil 1. Yeah.
That's cool.